Okay, good evening, everybody. As we start another beautiful class of Sikh of the Rebbe on the portion of Vayishlach. In your book, in your Torah studies book, we are holding on page 121. If you only have a Chumash, it's on Genesis chapter 32, verse 4. This week is a very special week in the Chabad calendar, and especially this Shabbos is a very special Shabbos, as it's Yutes Kislev, the 19th day of Kislev. The day of great celebration by Chabad and by Jews throughout the world. For on this day, two things happen. Number one is the Mezritcha Magid, who took over from the Baal Shem Tov, passed away on the 19th day of Kislev, and his student, who became the leader of the Chabad movement of Shnei Zalman of Ladi, was released from prison after he tattletale him that he was conspiring against the Russian Tsar, and he was in prison for 53 days, and ultimately was released on the 19th day of Kislev. So it became a day of great celebration. So just to give you a quick history, and I'm not that great in history, so it's going to be very quick. The Mezritcha Magid, the Magid of Mezritch, as he was known, he was the Magid. Magid means the teacher or the teller of the city of Mezritch. He lived in the city of Mezritch. I think it's either Ukraine or White Russia. And he came to the Baal Shem Tov in 1752. He came to the Baal Shem Tov. He came to Mezhebush. And he was there, he stayed there, and he became a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov. On Shavuot in 1760, the Baal Shem Tov passed away, and his son, actually, his son Tzvi became the leader of the Chassidic movement, and a year later, he gathered in all the students of the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, my father came to me in a dream, and he told me that I need to give over the leadership to the Mezritcha Magid. His name was Abdoiv Ber. He needs to become the leader of the Chassidic movement. And so in 1762, the Mezritcha Magid became the leader of the Chassidic movement. He became the leader of what the Baal Shem Tov started. In the 19th day and he was a leader for the next 11 years. And on the 19th day of Kislev in the year 1772, the Mezritcha Magid passed away. Before he actually passed away, one day his prize student, who was the youngest of his students, was Rav Shnei Zalman of Ladi. And he told his student once, he told the Alter Rebbe, who was called the Alter Rebbe, he told him that the 19th of Kislev is going to be our Yontiv. It's going to be our Yontiv. And in 1772, on the 19th day of Kislev, the Mezritcha Magid passed away. Chassidus then split up into many, many groups, and many Talmidei HaMagid opened up different Chassidic courts, as you would call it, different Chassidic sects that are here until today around the world. There are many, many different Chassidic sects that are around the world. Most of them, majority of them started off from the Baal Shem Tov, and especially the Magid. When the Magid passed away, that's when it separated. And the Alter Rebbe who was again the prize student of the Mishra Maggid, took a whole different course, a whole different direction, and he called it Chabad. That's in 1772. He called it Chabad, that he wanted to go through the concept of wisdom and understanding and knowledge, which that's why we're called Chabad until today. And he wrote the very famous book that he wrote, which we learn every day, is he wrote the Tanya, which became the written law of Chassidut. And the Tanya is accepted throughout the Chassidic world and the Jewish world as a very important book in the teachings of Chassidus and the teachings of Kabbalah, the Tanya. In 1796 was when the first time he printed this book, the Tanya. There were many Jews at that time, especially from the Lithuanian the Lithuanian side of the Jewish life, was against Hasidim, and especially against Hasidut. And they actually, part of them were the ones who created this whole situation. And in 1798, they arrested the Tsar, arrested the Alter Rebbe on conspiracy to go against the Tsar, which then the Tsar, Russia was fighting against Turkey then, and the Alter Rebbe was supporting the Jews in Jerusalem. There's still today, since the time of the Alter Rebbe, there's still an organization called Koil Chabad in Yerushalayim, the oldest soup kitchen and the oldest social charity in Yerushalayim is Chabad, and established by the Alter Rebbe in the early in 1717 something, the 1700s, 17 whatever. So I don't know exactly what time, 1750 or 1760. We can find out exactly when he established Koil Chabad, which is still today in the old city. If you ever in Jerusalem, if you ever go to the Western world, you turn around, you'll see a big sign. The opposite of the Western world, you see it says Koil Chabad. They have a place there. Tzemach Tzedek, his grandson, has a shul there. And Chabad Rabbeim had bought many properties. The Alter Rebbe in Yerushalayim, the Mittel Rebbe, the son bought in Hebron. The Tzemach Tzedek established a shul in Yerushalayim, the old city of Jerusalem, which is still there until today. And it was important for the Alter Rebbe to support the Jews of Yerushalayim at that time, in the 1700s. But that at the same time, Russia was fighting with Turkey, and basically it was under the Turkish Empire. Israel was then under the Ottoman Empire, and therefore they said that he was supporting the Turks against the Russians, and it made a whole turn. It was 53 days in jail. He ultimately had to prove himself, and they were bringing from the Tanya how he talks against the government. That was their main thing. They were corrupting the Tanya. They had people who translated the Tanya, and they corrupted it, and they to show the government that in the Tanya itself, he's talking against the government. And in that year, 1798, he was on Yutes Kislev. They ultimately, after 53 days, they let him out of prison. They actually let him out of prison with great glory, and told him to continue to spread, do what he's doing. They understood that he's basically spreading Judaism. Whether they are, at that time, the Russian Tsar was officially not against the teachings of Chassidus. Okay. So this class starts off with a teaching of the Maggid. A teaching of the Maggid. The Maggid of Mezritch. We're gonna have a teaching of the Maggid of Mezritch. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe is going to take that teaching of the Maggid and Mezritch on this week's Parsha and expound upon it. What was the accomplishment of the revelation of Chassidus in the world? Because the Zohar was written 1,000 years before the Alter Rebbe came. The Arizal was hundreds of years before the Alter Rebbe came around. What was the accomplishment of the Alter Rebbe in the teachings of Chassidut, the Tanya, and the teachings of Chassidus from the Alter Rebbe, and so to the predecessors after that, the Mittel Rebbe, and so on until today? What was the accomplishment of their teachings, the way they looked and accentuated the learning of Torah through the eyes of Chassidut? So it's really a fascinating class, and if you have any questions, you can ask in between the class. We're going to start on text number 1, which is the Parsha, page 121 in your student book. Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav al Esav achar. This is portion of Vayishlach. It says, and Jacob sent angels ahead of him to his brother Esav, right? Jacob, after being away from his father 22 years, he decided it's time to go home. It's time to go to Israel. The problem was, that time was called the land of Canaan. The problem was, to get to Israel, you have to pass through Seir, and Seir, mountains of Edom, and Seir in the mountains of Edom where Esav lived. And he knew he has to go and he's got to do something to appease his brother. He knows even though it's 22 years, he could imagine in his mind his brother still remembers the hatred of stealing the firstborn and stealing the blessings. So he sends as follows. He sends malachim. He sends angels. Vayitzav oisam leiman. He commands them, saying, this is what you should say to my master Esav. This is what my servant Yaakov said. In love and gaiti, in love and gaiti, with love, and I've learned, and I've tarried until now. That's why I was busy. You asked me why did I wait 22 years. I was very busy with Lavan. I had a whole headache with him. Could have, my mother said, Yom HaChadim, it should be a couple of days. I got stuck at 22 years working for him, for 2 daughters. I married 2 women. I married 4 women. I have this whole entourage, and that's why, and now I'm coming back. So that is the story. And they continue, but the malachim come back, the angels come back, and they say, he's not really happy you're coming. And actually, when he heard you're coming, he's coming out towards you. So there's an interesting word that the Torah uses over here is malachim. Vayishlach Yaakov malachim. And Yaakov sent malachim, angels. What does that mean? So Rashi says in text number 2, page 122, in your book, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim, malachim mamish. Yaakov literally sent angels. Literally sent angels. He didn't send a bunch of guys, physical guys, men. He sent angels. That's a Rashi. Rashi says, Rashi teaching for a 5-year-old child, and he's telling him that Yaakov Avinu sent angels. Angels. Right? Most of us don't see angels. But Yaakov was seemingly a person who was regularly around angels. And he knew angels. So that's the Rashi, which is fascinating on itself, and we'll come back to it. Let's go to the teaching of the Mezritch Maggid, who's on text number 3, page 122. So in the Shabbos of Parshat Vayishlach, in the year 1772, was the Maggid of Mezritz's last Shabbos on the world. 1772. Lying in bed before all the members of the Holy Society of his students, he said, Rashi states that Malachim, Jacob sent were Malachim Mamish. What's the word Mamish mean? Malachim Mamish. Mamish. What is the meaning of the word Mamish? So he translated as follows, the Mishnah Magid. That means Jacob sent Mamish, bodies of the angels. Jacob sent the Mamish, the bodies of the angels. But the spirituality of the angels remained with Jacob. So he said, even an angel has a form. Every angel has its form. In the different forms of different angels. And that's why Ezekiel had a prophecy. He saw angels. He saw in his vision angels, and he gives you a description of angels. So angels have a form. So the Magid Magid said that Yaakov Avinu didn't send the spiritual part of the angel. He only sent the body of the angel. The physical, the outer part of the angel, Yaakov Avinu sent. Now, what does that mean? What does the Magid Magid mean? I can understand that Yaakov Avinu sends angels. Why? Why wouldn't he send people? Why wouldn't Yaakov Avinu send a group of guys? Why didn't he send angels to begin with? Why would Rashi translate a Malachim Mamish? Simple. The answer would be because Yaakov Avinu wanted to impress Esau. He wanted to impress Esau. Imagine Esau is coming towards Yaakov, and the angels come to see him. I mean, that would shock anybody out of their shoes. So Yaakov Avinu wanted to impress the Esau. He wanted to ultimately have some strong impression upon him. So he sent them angels. So that's what Rashi says. He sent him angels. So why would the Mishnah Magid come and say, no. That it says he sent him angels. Yeah, he did send him. No, but he didn't send them the spiritual side of the angel. He only sent them the physical side of it. Therefore, the Rebbe writes in text number 4, the Rebbe asks this question. The question arises, text number 4 on page 123. The reason Yaakov sent angels and not humans to Esau is because the goal was to transform the Esau spiritually. Yaakov Avinu knew how was he going to deal with the Esau? How was he going to change Esau? The best way to change the Esau is to change him spiritually. If you're going to change him spiritually, he'll be a different person physically. So how is he going to do that? You send regular guys? That's not going to change the Esau spiritually. Send them angels. To this end, he sent angels who are the best suited for that job. Why did he only send the angels' bodies? So the question that Rebbe asked, why did the Magid Magid say that when Yaakov sent angels, and Rashi says mamish? Mamish means mamish. That you can feel it, you can touch it. Mamoshius. That's called mamish. Real. Mamish is something that's real. So you can touch the angel, the physical part of the angel, which was accomplished primarily by the angels in a spiritual quality. But really, to change the Esau, we need to use the spiritual side of the angel. Why would the Magid Magid, the Magid of Mizrich, change the Rashi in essence and say when Rashi says he sent angels, he only sent the physical part of the angel, when everybody who learns Rashi thinks that Rashi means he sent the spiritual part of the angel to change the Esau. So here on this teaching of the Magid of Mizrich, the Rebbe comes out to teach us and tells us from this teaching of Vayishlach Magid, who took over the Baal Shem Tov, who right before his death, passing on the 19th of Kislev, taught his Chassidim this teaching. Why would he teach them this? What was the point of him teaching them this? And right before Yutas Kislev, because in essence, he wanted to teach his students what is the purpose of the teachings of Chassidus. And if you understand that what's important of the teachings of Chassidus, of learning Chassidut and comprehending Chassidus, And that's why the Alter Rebbe took this teaching to even more than the teachings of the Maggid, but actually went into a much deeper, into a Chabad way, into a way that we can understand it and we can comprehend it and we can come our knowledge, because this teaching is going to change the way you're going to look at the world. It's going to change the way you're going to look at the purpose of why you are on the world. So to understand this, the Rebbe, this is a sikh of the Rebbe. This class is put together, the sikh of the Rebbe. The Rebbe goes to a story of the Alter Rebbe. We have a beautiful story of the Alter Rebbe when he was in jail. This is one of the amazing stories of the Alter Rebbe when he was in jail. While he was in jail, he says this story. And he says that while he was in jail, he had a visit. He had a visit. Two people came to visit him. And who were the two people who came to visit him? The magician Maggid and the Baal Shem Tov. They were already not alive. And the Alter Rebbe says they came to visit him, not in a dream. The Alter Rebbe says, Bahakis, they came to visit him physically. The Baal Shem Tov and the magician Maggid came to him in a physical form. And he knew the magician Maggid because he was a student. And he said he realized the man behind him was a Baal Shem Tov. He lived as a child, a very young child, and he called the Baal Shem Tov his grandfather, but he didn't see the Baal Shem Tov he didn't remember the Baal Shem Tov because he passed away when he was young. So they came to visit him in prison. Alter Rebbe tells the story. They came to visit him in prison, and the Alter Rebbe asked him, "What should he do? What happened over here? Why is he going through this whole story? What did he do already? What did he do? He spread the teachings of Chassidut. What did he do? He was, and if God's unhappy that he's spreading the teachings of Chassidus, he'll stop. If that's the message, then he'll stop teaching." So he asked his teacher, the Magician Maggid, and the Baal Shem Tov, he asked them, "What's going on over here? What is the response from this whole thing?" So look in text number 5. The Alter Rebbe asked them, "Why do I deserve this? And what do they want from me?" The Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid answered, "The heavenly accusations against your publicly disseminating the teachings of Chassidus has been renewed." Baal Shem Tov, Mr. Maggid answered him, and they said, "This is not people over here in this world that are going against you. No, this is a Gzeira Melamayla. This is you're being challenged in heaven. And it's a big challenge in heaven that you're taking the teachings of Kabbalah and the teaching of Chassidus, and you're teaching it to everybody." So the Alter Rebbe asked, "If I make it out of here, should I stop teaching Chassidus?" So that's it. Maybe if in heaven they don't want that I should do this, so when I come out, I'll stop. They responded, "No. Because you have started, do not stop. To the contrary, when you go out here, you shall increase. You have to go double. Let him say double, you'll increase." And we know there's an expression, Mechsidim, Fire Petersburg, before St. Petersburg, and after Petersburg, that there was a different way of the teachings of the Alter Rebbe before he went to prison and after he went to prison. So there was a decree in heaven on the teachings of Chassidus. What was the decree in heaven? What was the meaning of the statement of the Magician Maggid? What was so terrible about the teachings of Chassidus? And the truth is that that teachings of Chassidus that we know until the Baal Shem Tov was only there for a minority of Jews. only for the very learned, only for those who had the capability to understand Chassidut and Kabbalistic concepts. So it was a very VIP teaching. You had to be a certain student, and you had to be a certain caliber student to be able to become part of the teachings of Chassidus, even in the time of Baal Shem Tov. And as we see in the Rambam, in text number 6, Maimonides says as follows, page 125. The sages of the early generation commanded that these matters should only be explained to one person at a time, the teachings of Kabbalah. These concepts are extremely deep, and not every person has the knowledge necessary to appreciate them. Our sages have taught that you should not discuss them in public. So the Rambam already writes about Kabbalistic concepts. The Rambam said, first of all, it's not a public discussion, these Kabbalistic concepts. You should have a private lesson to people. Teach the student face to face. Public, nobody should talk Chassidus in public. Concerning them, the verse states, they shall be for you and not for others with you. Similarly, the verse states, honey and milk will be under your tongue. The sages of the early generation interpret this metaphor, subject that they are like honey and milk, should be kept under your tongue. These are the teachings of sweet, very sweet, and very, very holy, pure teachings. It should be hidden. It shouldn't be out there, out of your tongue, under your tongue. If you had the merit to learn it, you're a lucky guy. It means that you had the merit. So what changed? What changed from the time of the Rambam to the Baal Shem Tov? What changed? What suddenly changed the whole situation? The situation changed because the Baal Shem Tov felt that drastic times call for drastic measures. The Baal Shem Tov felt that he's living in drastic times for Yidden, and Jews have gone through, it was after the Chalmanitsky pogroms, there were terrible times after the Shapsi Tzvi, and Jews were on a very low, like they were fainted. The Jewish people were like fainted at the tzaddis, after tzaddis, and after tzaddis. And the Baal Shem Tov felt it's time to bring something to Judaism that will waken up the soul, that will put the fire under the people. And that's why he said it's time to reveal it to regular people. It's time to reveal it to the world, because the world needs it. The world needs it. We find this concept, the Rebbe, whenever the Rebbe came out with like a mitzvah, with, like for example, the girls should light candles from 3 years old, and there were those rabbis who came to the Rebbe and said, but that's not what their parents did, or that's not what their grandparents did. And the Rebbe said, your grandparents didn't need it. This is what the generation needs. This is now what the calling of the generation. We need to have something, not only just the learning of the Talmud and the learning of Jewish law. We need to give the Jews some soul. We need to give the Jews some fire. And that's what Chassidus gives. It gives you the fire. It gives you the excitement. It gives you the soul. It gives you the song. And the Baal Shem Tov came to the world to give them the song. Give them back the song. Jews were struggling, and so too till today. Till today, we have a different kind of struggle. We have the melting pot of the world, and everything, whether you're in America or any place else in the world, even today in Israel, you get lost in the melting pot of the world. And we need to have the neshama. We need the soul of Torah. We need the fire. We need to bring back the fire of Yiddishkeit. So Jews have not only the basic principles of the understanding of Yiddishkeit, but Jews have the fire of Yiddishkeit. They have the soul of Judaism. Because if you lose that, it's very hard to keep the basics. And that's why people walk away from the basics, because they don't feel the warmth. They feel it's cold. They feel it's indifferent. They feel it's just basically rules and regulations. But it's not. Torah is beautiful. Torah is phenomenal. Torah is warmth. Torah brings purpose. We need to bring back the fire. The Alter Rebbe, the Mitzvah Maggid continued the Baal Shem Tov's teaching. The Alter Rebbe went even further. The Alter Rebbe went even further as a grandson of the Baal, so they say a spiritual grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, and a successor to the Mitzvah Maggid. He took it a step further. He went further than that. And that we see in the beautiful story in text number 7 in your book. Because even in the time of Baal Shem Tov, there were those who were his friends who were not too happy with the Alter Rebbe going out and teaching Chassidus to everybody. So there was his friend who was named Rab Pinchas Koretz, was among the most distinguished of the Yisrael Baal Shem Tov's disciples. He believed that the holy teachings of Chassidus should be safeguarded, shared only in a select few. He was particularly opposed to those who transcribed the teachings of the scholar of Dov Ber, that they wrote it down. He said, "Don't write down the teachings of the Mitzvah Maggid, because it's going to get out. People are going to get it, and they're going to take these teachings, and they might do, who knows what they might do with it." When I actively distributed copies to the wider Jewish community, he said, "What do you mean? You're going to start distributing to everybody? You're going to put in every synagogue the teachings of the Mitzvah Maggid? These are holy teachings. They need to be sat down. They need to be taught. They need to be taught by somebody who knew it and somebody who could explain it. You can't just put it out anywhere." Once while Rav Pinchas was in Mizrich, he found that one such transcription language in the mountain of God. He passed in the street, and he saw a piece of paper with a teaching of the Mitzvah Maggid in the garbage bin. The sight of this caused him great pain. He said, "Look what's going on. Look what's happening. You're taking the teachings of Kabbalah, the teachings of Chassidut, the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of the Mitzvah Maggid, you're throwing it. This is what's happening. It's found in the garbage." The Alter Rebbe heard this, and Rav Shnei Zalman was also Mizrich at that time, and knew Rav Pinchas' objection to publishing these teachings indiscriminately. Wishing to appease Rav Pinchas, Rav Shnei Zalman offered him a parable. He told him, maybe you heard this famous parable. There was once a prince who fell gravely ill. The doctors were unable to find a cure for his illness. One day, a man arrived at the palace and prescribed a remedy. He described a certain precious stone with which, if one would grind it to the finest powders, mix it in a superb wine, and give it to the prince to drink, he would be cured. The only such gem in the kingdom served as a scented product. Was the one problem. And the problem was that the only gem that was in the kingdom was actually in the crown of the king. What do? The royal ministers were afraid to move it and damage the kingdom's most precious possession and the ultimate symbol of the king's sovereignty. You're going to take the king's crown and you're going to destroy the crown. But the king was overjoyed. He ordered that the gem be extracted and grounded immediately, and the potion be prepared. Grind pure and squared entire gemstone, said the king. Who knows? Because what happened was, the story tells further, they came to the king, and they said by the time they grounded it, well, right before they grounded, they told him that actually the child, the prince, could not even drink this drink. And if they push it down him, maybe one drop will go down his throat. So should we take now the gem, break the crown, take the gem, grind the gem up, that maybe one drop will get into the mouth of the prince. And the king said, for sure. Are you kidding me? Grind the thing down. Even if one drop gets into his mouth and saves the king, that means the rest of it's going to fall to the ground. The rest of it, the rest of the rest of the wine with the king's gem in it is gonna fall on the ground. It'll go to waste, but it's worth it to save the prince. If one drop gets into the king, into the prince, and he'll be healed. So the Rebbe told the Rebbe told Pinchas of Koretz, that is what the world needs. You have a prince who's in dire need of some warmth in his life. You have a prince who's in dire need of some chassidus in his life. And you're right. A lot of it might go to waste. Some of it you might find in the gutter. But maybe one drop will go into a Jewish person and give him life. It's worth it. It's worth it for it to find chassidus in the gutters, as if one teaching of chassidus will penetrate and give life and excitement to another Jew. It's all worth it, because every Jew is a prince and a princess of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And God wants his prince and his princesses to be happy and to be healthy and to be godly. So therefore, that's why the Mishra Magid and the Baal Shem Tov told the Alter Rebbe, are you kidding me? You got to go out even stronger. You got to go out even stronger. You got to teach more, because more is needed. When something is good and important, there usually is a menagid. There's usually somebody who's going to say no. And that person that says no, because even spiritually, there's somebody who's saying no. So therefore, go out and make it even greater. But there's even a more important concept in the teaching of Chassidus, and that is the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov, the Mishra Magid, and every other Rebbe that followed was bringing the world closer to the coming of Mashiach, was elevating, trying to elevate the world to the teachings of Chassidus. Because we know that teaching of Chassidus is teaching of a world that will be holy, a world that will be godly. So you think to yourself, I'm living here in this world. Can I imagine a world that will be godly? Can I imagine a world that will be selfless? Can I imagine a world that will be more spiritual? Is it possible? Isn't that what the prophets have prophesied from the time of the destruction of the temple? That there's going to come a time when the world will be more godly, when the world will be more spiritual. So shouldn't we learn today about what it means to be a more godly world, a more spiritual world? Shouldn't we do that? Why should we wait for Mashiach to come to learn what the world will be when he comes? We should learn now and get ready and maybe inspire us that we'll yearn for a day then the world will be a more spiritual world, when the world will be a more refined world. And that's why the Rambam in text number 8 says, in that era, which is the coming of Mashiach, there will be neither famine nor war. Can you imagine this? Envy, nor corruption. A world of... So not only is it be godly, because when it's godly, there's no corruption, there's no jealousy. For good will flow in abundance. And all the delights will be freely available as dust. And when the Rambam writes as dust, it means because it's not going to be important. Just like dust is not important, dust is everywhere, so too, this will not be important. It'll be there, but it was not going to be the importance of life. So therefore, there'll be pleasures, everything. Don't worry, you'll go on vacation. You'll have a grand life, but that's not going to be the purpose of your life. The occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. That's the teaching of Chassidus. Therefore, the Jews will be great sages and know the hidden matters, grasping the knowledge of their Creator according to the full extent of human potential. As the verse states, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the ocean's bed. My friend, that is what the Alter Rebbe wanted to accomplish. That's exactly what the teaching of the Tanya is. That's exactly what the Alter Rebbe wanted to accomplish with writing the Tanya, so that Jews, within their mind, that's what we call the Chabad, Chachma, Bina, and Das, that a Jew should not just have a faith in God. No, he'd have a knowledge of God. That he would have right now a knowledge, some aspect of a knowledge of God. It's so important that not that you leave God to faith and everything else is real, but God is a faith. God is a concept of a faith. That's not what the Alter Rebbe wanted to accomplish. The Alter Rebbe wanted to accomplish that God would become something that is real to me, mamish. That's why the Alter Rebbe writes in the second chapter of Tanya that a nefesh hashenis v'yisrael hu chelek elaka, your second soul, which is a part of God, chelek elaka mimal, which is a part of God above, mamish. He uses the same word, malachim mamish. He says it's mamish, it's real, not something that I have to, something I believe in. No, it's mamish. Just like your body is mamish, so too my neshama is mamish. How do I know my neshama is mamish? That comes through my understanding. And everybody, each and every one of us, need to have an understanding of godliness and of our soul as much as we are capable of doing. So here the Alter Rebbe, and this is very important. This is extremely important because it's not only about our neshama, it's about God, it's about Torah. The Eibishter wanted, and the Chassidus wanted to accentuate that Torah shouldn't be a book of laws. No, Torah should be a way of life. Just like you have anything else in life, Torah should be also part of my way of life. So just like I have to make a living, and I have to pay taxes, and I have to pay bills, and I have to be a yid. There's no difference in the two. It's not like, this I really have to do, and this, I decided, my grandfather told me to do it. I'm forced to do it. No, just like this, I understand why I got to pay bills. I want to have electricity. Nobody's gonna give me electricity. I want to eat. Nobody's gonna give it to me for free. I need to go to work. I need to work. I need to make a living and be able to have the necessities of life. And that's beautiful. And to be able to my children to have the necessities of life. It's all part of the necessity of life. It's not a negative, it's a positive thing. Thank God, Baruch Hashem. The Eibishter, God gave us talents, each and every one of us talents and capabilities to accomplish things in life. And through that, we live and we enjoy life. So too, Yiddishkeit needs to also be the exact same necessity. So not that the world is a necessity and Yiddishkeit becomes an obligation, becomes like a burden. There's no joy in it at all. There's no joy in it. Comes the Alter Rebbe and says, learn about Yiddishkeit. Learn about God. Learn about the mitzvah. Don't just look at the mitzvah as an obligation. Learn about the mitzvah. Learn what the mitzvah means. Learn maybe the Kabbalistic connections of the mitzvah. Maybe if you'll understand it or not understand it. But you'll learn about it. It'll slowly grow upon you. And you know what happens when you have understanding of something? It creates a desire to it. It creates an enjoyment to it. So if you have an empty head, you have no knowledge of it, how are you supposed to enjoy it? How are we supposed to create an enjoyment to something? I have no knowledge. Yeah, I know I have a knowledge in business. I have a knowledge in whatever my job is. I have a knowledge. I'm a doctor. I have a knowledge in the body. If I'm a businessman, I have a knowledge in how to sell, how to buy. When it comes to the Yiddish guy, I have no knowledge. I'm doing it because I don't know, because that's what I have to do. That's a chaval. That's a sad situation. And that's what the Alter Rebbe wanted to change. And the Alter Rebbe knew the way he's going to change it is by bringing the soul of Yiddishkeit. Just like you go to work, who never wants to go to work? But he goes to work because he understands the positive things that come out of his work. He understands whether he understands that he's helping other people or whether he understands that he's helping himself, because his work is helping him live a certain lifestyle. So it's not the work that I enjoy. Everybody would like to win the lottery. Everybody would like to win the lottery, but that doesn't work. We'd like to win the lottery. No one wants to go to work. We go to work because we see the positive in it. We see the soul in it. We see the purpose in it. Whether you see the purpose that you're helping somebody else, you're creating something, or whether you see the purpose in your own development. So too, in Yiddishkeit, we need to find the soul of it. Not that this is what I have to do and I don't have to do, but what is the soul of it? And look in text number 9, the Rebbe explains this. He says, when the Alter Rebbe began to teach Chassidus, not just as a singular thought, like the one drop necessary to save the prince, but expansively, the teachings of Chabad. So now the Alter Rebbe took that mashal, he took it further. He said, no, we're going to, not like pushing down the water like the prince. That's an analogy to the Pinchas Koretz, to the concept of a lot of it getting lost. But the Baal Shem, Alter Rebbe didn't want any Chassidus to get lost. The Alter Rebbe wanted that Chassidus everything should be taken down, and the person should enjoy it. In the teachings of Chabad, the heavenly accusation was renewed. After all, the teaching of Chassidus so broadly is not seen necessary to save a person's life. This is why the Alter Rebbe wasn't sure if he ought to continue his approach and teach Chassidus. But his teachers told him that the sacrifice he has made and his imprisonment, he had managed to change things above. He secured permission to continue, and on the contrary, when you go out there, you shall increase. The reason for this expansion was for the purpose of guiding the Jewish people and preparing their hearts for the revelation of the Torah, hidden reasons and concealed depths that will take place when Mashiach comes, when the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the water covers the ocean's bed. 53 days the Alter Rebbe was in prison. We went through interrogations for 53 days. And they are symbolic to the 53 chapters in the Tanya. One chapter per day. Every letter in the Tanya, every teachings of the Tanya gives the capability for a Jew to realize that whatever situation he might be in, whatever kind of place he might be, whatever situation he might find himself, he has a godly soul. He has a godly purpose. He has an unbelievable agenda. He should never lose his excitement in Torah and mitzvahs. He should never lose his excitement, his spiritual excitement, his godly excitement. Because there's always, whether it is the two reasons, whether it's to awaken up the Jew, or there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, my friends. And when we bring the purpose within ourselves, we'll bring the purpose within the whole world. So here, the Rebbe explains the two concepts of ascending the angels, the physical side of the angel and the spiritual side of the angel. What the Mizitcha Magid meant when he said, I don't want to send, Yaakov Avinu didn't want to send the spiritual side of the angel. He only wanted to send the physical side of the angel. So here's what the Rebbe says in text number 10. The difference between the Alter Rebbe and the Midrash Maggid. The soul, the Rebbe says over here, in text number 10 on page 129, the soul descended into the world for the purpose of sublimating the body and one sphere of influence, transforming them into channels of godliness. This is similar to the angels Jacob sent to sublimate Esau. And just as Jacob requires angels for his mission, so too with our mission of sublimating the body and the world, one must summon up their inner angels and spirituality within. This is the required method to effect to sublimate the world. So we could do this two ways. We could do this by breaking the body, forcing the body, overpowering the body. Or we can do this by elevating the body, by making the body realize, enjoy its true purpose. Teach the body itself that the body itself should learn that it has a greater purpose. Not that the body says, okay, I don't really want to do this, but you're forcing me to do this. But actually the body itself realizes that, you know what? It's going to gain not only from its bodily functions, its bodily enjoyments, it's also going to gain from the spiritual enjoyments. It will also gain from its spiritual journey. Because if the body does not feel that it gains from its spiritual journey, the body will always fight it. The body will always fight it, even though the body will break itself, and you're going to force the body to listen to the soul, to listen to your godly soul. If the body doesn't see its enjoyment, the body will always fight it. And there'll always be a struggle between the body and the soul. The Alter Rebbe wanted to change that. The Alter Rebbe wanted to go more than the Midrash Maggid. The Alter Rebbe, that's why the Midrash Maggid, when he says Malachim Mamish, that he didn't send the spiritual, he only sent the body of the angel, because he wanted that the malach, that the malach itself, the essence of the malach should stay with Yaakov. He wouldn't send the spiritual side of the angel. The Alter Rebbe took it a step further. The Alter Rebbe said, send the spiritual side, but always remember that the spiritual side is connected to the Jacob. Always remember in life, wherever you go in life, wherever God takes you in life, in any situation you are in, never forget your spiritual side that is connected to God. Wherever you go in life, your body and soul goes with you. Anywhere in life, to the good and the bad and the ugly, your body and soul is there with you. Whether they like it or not, your body and soul is there. How do we overcome the struggles of life? Is if we remember that the soul is connected to its source. When we remember the spiritual side of the soul, and we remember that the spirit that I have a godly soul, I have a spiritual side to me, and that is really the purpose of my life. So all this whole struggles of life that I'm going through, all these challenges, all these negativity, all this lashon hara, all this hatred, all this struggles, is all the physical side of my existence. The spiritual side is godly, has a purpose, is pure, is above and beyond all this narishkeit, all this chatter, all this whatever it might be. I have a godly soul. in this meshugana world that I'm in this chaos that I'm in, my soul is still here. My soul didn't go anywhere. He's still right there with me. And if I would only tap into my soul and understand my soul, I would be able to diminish the chatter, the hate, and the struggles, because I'll be able to overlook it. It's like the difference is seeing through the forest or seeing from above the forest. We're all in the forest. We're all struggling in the forest. But there are those who have the capability to look from above, because they're connected to always to their neshama. They realize that whatever they're going through, they still have a neshama. They still have a godly side to them, which that godly side is self-understood, pure and good, and it never lost its purpose in this whole chaotic situation. If they lose that sound of that godly soul, if they lose that voice, and they get totally involved in the world of voices, they get verblunged. They're suddenly stuck in a hole, and suddenly they don't see any way out. So the Rebbe writes in text number 11 on page 130, the lesson of Yutes Kislev and the spreadings of the well springs forth in terms of our personal life is this: every Jew has a wellspring within him. It is the soul, carved from above, carved from the divine throne, and is pure. Now, revealing this wellspring in one's personal life must be in such a way that the wellsprings gushes forth without limits, leaving the body with no sense of self, but rather entirely overtaken by the soul. That's what we have to do. Especially, this is as we come to Yutes Kislev. Send your malachim mamish. That's what the Mishnah Maggid said. This day is our yontiv. I say send you send out even the chitzonis, the outer of the malach, the mamish of the malach, and you're going to say send out the nefesh, the godly soul mamish. You're going to teach the world to go further, because with Chabad, through understanding and wisdom and knowledge, you can be able to reveal the essence of your neshama. You're not going to be able to reveal, like I said, your outer forces. You're going to be able to reveal your inner forces. And that's what the Alter Rebbe wanted to teach us. So therefore, the Rebbe writes in text number 12, as we come to the conclusion of this class. This teaching of the Maggid, that Jacob sent only the bodies of the angels to Esau, but their soul remained with Jacob, doesn't mean Jacob, this is how the Alter Rebbe taught the Maggid, doesn't mean Jacob sent only bodies of the angels without their spiritual core, their souls. Rather, the Maggid was explaining that the angels of body and soul were sent in such a way that even even in Esau's domain, the connection to Jacob remained intact. It was as if they came to Esau in body alone, but in the sense that they knew this wasn't their rightful place. The rightful place, while they were with him, the rightful place was with Jacob. At heart, the spirituality remained with Jacob. And they were in Esau's presence only for the purpose of fulfilling Jacob's mission, like the body, which is not an independent entity, rather a being which does the soul's body. And that's what we have to do. You got to go out there and work with the world. Don't run away from the world. Be involved in the world. But always remember that you're going there with your neshama, which teaches you that you're always connected. As you go to the world, you're connected to something that's much higher, something that's much greater, something that's much more important, something that will give you purpose. So therefore, will bring even a purpose, if possible, in this noise of the God of the Esav, the noise of the Esav. So that's how the Rebbe ends off. It is possible that one engages the world by force in a way that the body is perceived as an entity apart from the soul. Therefore, the Mavic explained that the ultimate goal is when the soul's ability, the angels sent to Esav, are completely in tune with their inner spiritual core. In this way, even the deepest depths of the soul, the inner wellsprings, shines forth and spreads without limit to every person one's life. And that's how the Alter Rebbe took the Baal Shem Tov and even the Meditcha Maggid and brought their teachings, not only the outer expressions of the soul, but also the essence of the soul. The Alter Rebbe took the essence of the soul of a Yid, the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and gave us, each and every one of us, to be able to learn, and it should become part of our wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, so that we would not only work with the world and get involved with the world and feel that our body is there and our soul is someplace else, our soul is in shul, but right now I'm a physical guy, I'm a man, I'm an American, wherever you are. No, while I'm still here, while I'm working with the world, I am still part of Yiddishkeit. I'm still part of my neshama. My neshama is totally part of me. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachem El Esav Malachem Mamash. The Rebbe in essence says, the Alter Rebbe, Yitzhak Magid, the Baal Shem Tov, taught us all one thing. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachem El Esav. You got to send the malach, your malachim, my malachim to Esav. What my malach? Malachim mamish. Those who understood the malachim mamish means the physical part, and the way the Alter Rebbe understood it, it means also your spiritual part. That you should send to the Esav the physical part and also the spiritual part, because that would ultimately transform the Esav. It will ultimately make the Esav also find its purpose and its warmth and its excitement. Because we know that Esav is Edom because he was red. Esav was fire. He just had a fire for Gashmias. He had a fire for the physical world. And Yaakov needs to teach the Esav to make the world, to make the heat, the excitement that you have in the world, also an excitement for godliness. You know, in the Seder, we put Echad Chacham ve'Echad Rasha. We put the Chacham and the Rasha one next to each other. The question is asked, why would you put the Chacham near the Rasha? Why would you put the Chacham near the Rasha? Why would you take the wise man near the wicked person? Why put them together? So those who say, because you want the Chacham to influence the Rasha, to make an impression on the Russian. So is that fair? Is that fair to take the Chacham and put him next to the Russia because he should influence the Russia? That's not fair. And the answer is that the Russia needs to also influence the Chacham. The Chacham needs to give the Russia, he should take his heat and he should be warmth for godliness. The Russia needs to teach the Chacham that he also has to have warmth. He also has to have fire in his life. He also needs to not only be a person who's wise and everything is done in a cold, concise, rigid way. He also should be a little bit like the Russian, who has some excitement in his life, who has some fire in his life. And that's why it says, the Yaakov Avinu in this week's portion waited for Yosef to be born. Rashi says it. He waited for Yosef, last week's parsha. He waited for Yosef to be born because Yosef was a fire. He knew when Yosef was born, or Yosef was like a fire. He's going to change the world, which he did. And Yosef will challenge the world, just like Esau. He knew that Yosef will be able to stand up against Esau. He'll be able to teach Esau, I'm going to be the same like you. I'm going to become a minister of the world. I'm going to get involved with the world. I'm going to get involved with the world more than you got involved with the world, and I'll still stay a tzaddik, and I'll still stay righteous. Nothing wrong that you were a hunter. There's nothing wrong that you were a worldly man. What was wrong was that you became an evil man. If you would take all that excitement in the world and also remember that you're a son of Yitzchak, you're a son of Isaac, and you could have both worlds. You can be a hunter and a worldly man and still be a godly man. That's when Yosef was born. That was the ultimate challenge to Esau, because that taught Esau that he could still be Esau and still be a righteous individual. Esau didn't learn it, and we are still in the journey to teach the Esau, which is the meaning of shall be a light unto the nations of the world, to teach the world that there's no contradiction in having a worldly agenda and at the same moment have a godly agenda. They actually work very well with one another. They enhance each other. They make each other better. My friends, this coming Shabbos is Yutes Kislev. It's the day of Rosh Hashanah LaChasidut. And we wish each other that we should all be blessed with a year of learning of Chassidus. We should written and signed for a year of more learning of Chassidus and more going in the ways of Chassidus. And I wish you all a great evening and a great Shabbos. We're continuing Chitas. I'm happy all those that are part of Chitas. It's really beautiful that the Mitzshem and this coming Shabbos, we're going to end the Chitas. We're going to end the Tanya, the whole Tanya. And next week, we're going to start again from afresh, the beginning of Tanya, all the way from the beginning. And it's really a great merit to learn together Chassidut. May we learn together Chassidus for many, many, many more years to come. Have a wonderful and beautiful evening. Have a wonderful and beautiful week. Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you, Rabbi. This was very interesting.